Zara, Aisha, and Syed, tell us about your role in the organization and what specifically you're doing at Aspiring Futures.
Hi, I'm Zara. So I basically help with the curriculum, and then I also help with other fundraising events. So with that, I kind of help Faria and create the overall curriculum for different types of students. And then also with Ramadan coming up, I also help with the overall fundraising aspect of that.
Excellent. Now, what's your background educationally that made you want to get involved with the organization?
So I have my bachelor's in public health and psychology, and I'm currently working towards my master's in social work. So with that, it kind of goes hand in hand with this organization and helping underprivileged kids, especially with them wanting to secure their future in education.
And tell us a little bit more about the difficulties in educating people in poverty, where maybe their goal is more to put food on the table as opposed to, read great literature.
Mm-hmm. So I think that especially since our organization does cater towards a lot of girls, I think there's a good amount of stigma involved with, kind of going towards like that higher education path. So, and sometimes it's like there is a push in terms of trying to like tell them that this is important for you in order to achieve your hopes and aspirations, and that even reading a simple book can go a long way in terms of even creating like a bigger overall overarching theme for their
right
thing.
So Aspiring Futures is not just trying to educate people, but to some degree you're trying to change the culture where education is appreciated and lauded, and so that's a difficult hurdle, I think, for all of us. Now to you, tell us what your role is in the organization.
So I'm actually a pediatrician, and Aspiring Futures just launched a new kind of medical assistance program. In fact, we just did our first pilot session, a 60-minute session, where we had a group of 12 to 15 girls in the Aspiring Futures hostel in Pakistan. And our goal is to provide medical support for general basic medical questions like hygiene, headache relief, nothing that requires intense physical activity or examination, but it's a group effort, so all these girls have their questions that we address in a kind of a Zoom call format.
Excellent. So do you find culturally some things that maybe were more open in the Western world discussing are more taboo subjects there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We did touch on some puberty questions, and there was a lot of shyness and giggling, and but eventually we overcame those hurdles. But that's the beauty of this, when we have someone on the eastern side and someone on the western side to kind of work through these barriers or hurdles and get to the point of addressing their medical questions.
Right. And where do you see that part of the program developing in future?
Well, our goal right now is, since on the educational side, academic performance is important, that cannot be completed until we have good physical health and good mental health. So it's almost a continuum. We have the academic side, the medical side, and the emotional side. The goal of these sessions is to provide a platform and a safe space for these girls and boys and youth where they can discuss their issues, overcome their burdens, and then go back to their communities and homes and teach and educate their families. A lot of them come from very marginal, lower socioeconomic resources, and this will help them educate their siblings, their families, and kind of create a long-standing ripple effect.
Okay.
So it will be a slow expansion. As I said, we just started this. We're going to move on to incorporating the youth mentors in that also more. Right now, I'm kind of assessing what the needs are and how we can help, and then I'll have more updates for you in the future.
Great.
On that.
Now, one of the things we hear a lot about globally is that young people today are struggling with their mental health. And do you find that the mentorship of Aspiring Futures, having youth help youth, is, I'll say, on both sides of the equation, making them stronger mentally and maybe peer-to-peer, mentorship? Is that helping in that capacity?
Absolutely, and you brought up an important concept. In fact, latest research is discussing how to address medical and social needs with what we call peer-to-peer counseling, like you said, and concordant care. So if a teenager is struggling, another teenager who's been through the same situation can provide a bridge and can kind of help those issues.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Now to Syed, tell us what you're doing for the organization.
Sure. I've been involved since the beginning. It's been a 5-year journey, and my role is more like an advisory role, sort of stay on the sidelines, and also business development. Conceptually, when we started this journey of Starting Futures, we envisioned it as a more of an enabling platform, just not for providing education, but like a platform where people can realize what's happening in the third world, and the kids, some of these underprivileged kids in living below poverty lines, and how bright they are, but they don't have enough opportunities to pursue education. And what we brought to the table from our side is get more people like us who went to school here and educated here and came from Pakistan and able to give back. So that was the initial concept where we are looking at trying what we can do to help these kids. And you probably heard a few people here in this conversation that every time we went to Pakistan, we saw more and more kids on the street, right, begging for money, and they should be in school. And it was heartbreaking to see these kids who are on the street for whatever reason, and not being able to pursue education. So we developed that concept from there and sort of started with our friends and family to start supporting us in the beginning, and we started with 5 kids. And now, we're kind of growing, and we saw all the youth leaders coming in. So we're actually have 200 kids in the program, including the two shelters, one for boys and one for girls. So it's kind of growing and trying to help the cause and recruiting more and more. But it's amazing how the youth here in the US has able to latch on to this and feeling the gratification of helping somebody on the other side of the world, overcoming the language barriers, overcoming the world clock, there's a 10, 11 hour difference, and able to stay up and mentor these kids. So it's been quite fulfilling to see that.
Absolutely. Now, I will say when I was young on a trip to Islamabad, we went to a rug factory, and there were 5, 6, 7-year-old children working 12 or 14-hour days, creating these magically beautiful carpets. But is youth labor still a significant issue in Pakistan?
Yeah, it's still very prevalent because on the average in Pakistan, you have 4 or 5 kids per family, and if you're living in poverty, then how do you support the family, right? So they have no choice but to put these kids in these sweatshops of almost slave labor conditions. It's like a survival, right? And not to say they don't want to send their kids to school, but they can't really afford it. And the system in Pakistan to have education is like a privilege. It's not really a right. So I think it's a big need that we're trying to address. There's lots of organizations who are working in this cause, right? But as you heard Uzma, we're trying to figure out where we can bring the value. I mean, it's not about opening schools or trying to educate masses. It's more about focusing on more brighter kids who have the potential to go through a 4-year college, especially also on the females who are a little bit more taboo by the cultural nuances of not able to pursue education. As Zara was mentioning, it's more tough. So and we saw through our journey that the girls were more persistent and more driven compared to the boys. And the 5 graduates that we have, they're all girls: chartered accountancy, medicine, computer science. So it's really interesting to see and how the relationship evolved between the mentors here and the kids there. I mean, technology made a huge difference, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have WhatsApp or Zoom, it would be very tough. But it's really very interesting. Still work in progress. But I'm very happy to see all the youth that's kind of coming in and taking over and taking it to different places.
Aisha, I want you to talk to us a little bit about how you as a pediatrician can influence possibly some of these students to pursue medicine and why that could be so important in this program?
That's a great question, Jane. Actually, ironically, in our first session, as our icebreaker, I went around and asked everyone, all these girls, what they wanted to be, and about 80% of them said doctor. So the goals start out high, and then unfortunately, because of circumstances, that changes. They have to go to work, they get married. But when they see a mentor or someone that they communicate with regularly in a position to give them advice, but also working on the same goal, it gives them that enthusiasm and fuel to work towards that goal. So my goal is for them, as we have more of these sessions and they see someone in a position, I'm working as a pediatrician, but I'm also spending that time with them. And I can share with them how I'm still a mom, I'm still a wife, I'm still doing everything else. That gives them the ability to realize that they can balance that as well. So you're right, seeing someone that has cultural similarities or professional similarities to what you aspire to be definitely is very changing in these ways.
And do you find in Pakistan there's still social mores that restrict women from maybe getting adequate medical care, within the country, that maybe eventually this program changes that outlook for them?
Absolutely, I think so. I think a lot of female issues that prevent women from going to the doctor. I think the younger generation, because we'll talk about them, explore them, explain how we can articulate our medical problems in a way that for them is not embarrassing, but also meaningful, that they can get attention for, will definitely encourage them to seek care in the future. And again, go back and educate the females and males in their families that this is okay. We can get help for these conditions. So it's going to be a slow process, but I definitely look forward to a
Well,
change.
we have to start somewhere, that's
Yes.
for sure. Now, tell us a little bit about some of your challenges that you found curriculum-wise, things that maybe, say in the Western world, we wouldn't see as challenging, but maybe they're like, I don't know, lack of advanced calculators or things of that nature that you've run into.
I think that with the curriculum, just to preface, like, these kids are so smart, and I think that the way that they process things might be a little more like analytically compared to like how our education system is like set up. I think that also with again, I think that, as mentors, like teaching them a language that we've already known like our entire lives is like, I think that is like the biggest challenge in terms of actually going forth with it, because this is like something that's already ingrained within our systems. So I think that, I guess, like just them picking up and like having to be like really nitty gritty with all the rules, especially within the English language, is what I found to be the most difficult for the curriculum part.
I mean, English is certainly a very nuanced language,
Right.
even as a native English speaker. So, and it is challenging, and you see that globally, within politics and whatnot, that sometimes language can trip us all up significantly,
Right.
unfortunately. Syed, talk to us a little bit about where you see the organization in 5 or 10 or 15 years.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we have big dreams for sure. I mean, we want to take this organization globally. I mean, when we started, our charter was not just to focus Pakistan, but initially, since most of us have some type of ties to Pakistan, and of course the currency conversion was much better, when you are sending money in dollars and helping this convert to a much larger, and then we can help a lot more. So that was the first step, and we're expanding to different cities, but I think we have to go beyond that, because I strongly believe that the talented kids are everywhere in the world, and if they don't have opportunity, we should be able to help them beyond a nationality or religion or race. So it's an open platform for anyone, who can benefit from.
Right, and they say in Pakistan there's about 24 million children living in poverty, correct?
Yeah.
And I would say, from experience, many successful Pakistanis have actually emigrated to Canada and the United Kingdom and, the Americas. And so that opportunity with those people who have left the country to actually give back, I think is very significant.
Yeah, it's every immigrant story, right? Coming from middle class or lower middle class. I can certainly relate to it on some level of growing up in Pakistan, coming here, and hot water, running water in a shower was like a blessing, right? I just loved it. Like, oh, you can have this, and because both of my parents were working, my mom was a teacher, and my dad worked for the government, so we didn't really have running hot water. So we used to heat the water and then transfer to a bucket, and then so all that stuff, little things matter that we take for granted here now, right? And then in Pakistan they don't even have water, so taking a shower every day is a big thing, right?
I mean, most Americans, we do have if I can say, easy life to some degree, and I think it makes us better citizens wherever we've immigrated to. My father was an immigrant as well. But, if we can come to the place that we end up and give back to where we came from, it lifts the whole world.
Absolutely.
And, I'm a big believer in rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Absolutely.
And so, that I think is the goal of the organization. And, all of you have this very specific but global part to play in that.
Every kid that's in the program has a very unique story, right? And if you learn that, it just amazes me. Like, one of my daughter was a mentor, and she was probably one of the first mentors, and her mentee was a single mom, girl who was working his mom was working as a maid, and she was helping her mom and also sort of going to school part-time. And then when Fariha started mentoring her, she was in tears. She said, Dad, this girl is so bright that I'm amazed. And now, after 5 years looking back, right, and now she's doing chartered accountancy, and her confidence level, her communication is just, you will be shocked to see the transformation. And initially it was like a language barrier, other things, and we had to fight with their employer to send this kid to school and all that. But 5-year journey, like, when you see the results, it's an amazing payback.
I think for many of us, we just need somebody to believe in us, right? And so you're providing the mentors who can show these kids that somebody believes in them, somebody sees the opportunity, and somebody's willing to foster them getting there, which is so critical to, I'll say, any person's success in the world. So any final thoughts on where you see the organization going and how you see your role within the organization developing over time?
Well, I think this organization is set up for success, not only just like for the kids in general, and like having them, achieve like their overall dream. I would say that I can see myself helping facilitate that in terms of like fundraising and like kind of being not only like, I guess, like a middle ground to kind of the youth here, and like having them also be aware of the youth there, and just like catering to that.
Excellent. I'll throw the same question to you.
Sure. So in the medical community, we have this example for procedures and learning new skills. We say, see one, do one, teach one. So our goal here is to see these kids establish that self-confidence, self-esteem, academic progress, and be mentally and physically healthy. We'd like them to do for each other that camaraderie with their individual space in their hostels and their communities, and go back to their communities and teach their peers, teach their elders, teach future generations. So that's our long-term goal. In terms of aspiring futures on the medical front, I could foresee us getting maybe pre-med or medical students to work with these young students, someone who wants to go into the medical program. That could be very high-reaching, but we'll work on that.
Well, we have to aspire high, right?
There you go.
Absolutely.
And what about you, Syed? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, you saw all the young people, so that was my plan, to bring younger people and get them involved, and then try to help them see what's happening outside of the U.S. and open their, as you call it, more lens to see if there is a need and they can help out. And I strongly believe there's a payback for every one of us, right? Who's giving their time or money into this, right? It has an amazing way of coming back to you and changing your life, right? And so I see this going beyond Pakistan, beyond, even in Houston, you're trying to develop these contacts. And by design, Uzma and I when we were talking about it, we wanted more of the donation dollars to go towards the cause and keep our overhead, minimal. And we've been quite successful at that so far. But obviously, as you're growing, larger and larger, we want to expand the donor base. That's one of my, my jobs to reach out in Houston community. Right now, it's most of the donors are from the Pakistani backgrounds, but the goal is to go to the big grants and apply for those, and show our cause and show our results. It's been 5 years, so we have some data to show them, to say this is where we started and this is where we are today.
Well, I think especially when you see corporate America is also making this move to start, data centers in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, places like this, that, we also as Westerners have to invest in the educational footprint there to build up so that, those endeavors can be successful.
Absolutely.
So it's the right time for the organization, and we're excited for the future.
Yeah, we are very excited as well.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you.